the truck's electric, right? So it charges up on a 110 circuit or a 220 circuit, right? So 110 volt or 220 volt, 15 or 30 amp. And really what that means is that you can charge it with a normal cable, the one you're familiar with, like the usual 3-prong, or you can do it with a cable like the one that supplies your oven. And it has the charging time. When you double the power, you have the charging time. So that's of interest to us. And I had to approach the Strata and get them to agree to install 220 volt capacity, charging capacity at my stall. And the argument I used is that new condominiums being made in Vancouver right now, it's mandatory to have a charging facility in the basements or have it available to the tenants. And the angle I took was we'll improve the services of the building to the tenants. I mean, we can start with me, and I'll sort of get the main infrastructure rolling, and then individual people, as they want to come online, can tap in. It's a better way to go. It's kind of awesome to get a chance to come under the truck. I don't get to see it like this very often anymore, but it's kind of fun to walk through it. I don't know for those of you who are interested, but here it is. Just really beefy truck because we got to handle a lot of weight with the batteries in the bed. We've split it into two, and the rear one actually comes up to about the axle, so it's actually really nicely balanced. It's actually 51% rear, 49 front weight distribution, which is perfect. So beefy shocks to handle the weight, right? That keeps things from bouncing around. Axles, we did 31 spline drag axles put into a Ford housing. So this is a Ford 9-inch. This is a classic Ford 9-inch that's beefy and able to handle a lot of twisting power. And they're available, right? So a lot of guys use it for drag applications and that. Bring it through to a third member. So the third member linking into this universal joint here has the gear ratio in it. We went with a 1 to 6.83, which is very much a drag rear end ratio, right? So we've got a lot of weight and there are a lot of hills in Vancouver, so we need a lot of torque to get this thing accelerating. We also wanted to smoke the tires, but we'll talk about that later. 2-speed drive shaft. Basically, we didn't want to have the drive shaft tucking up too much into the cabin. So we wanted to put it in two pieces so we could manipulate the angles a little bit better and preserve as much of the aesthetics of the original 58 Apache as possible. And then right up into the universal gear, mating up with the B-lock. So this flange here is a friction fit flange that mates right up with the AC90 from Azure Dynamics. And that's a very strong way of basically fixing a drive shaft to the main shaft, the drive shaft of the motor, and in a removable way, of course, right? So if you need to service one or the other, you got to be able to disconnect them. So the AC90, some of the specs, we've got about 90 horsepower, which I guess sounds paltry, doesn't it? But it's a different kind of horsepower. It's a horsepower that's almost instantly available and doesn't flatten off. There's not a power band like with gasoline combustion engines, right? So the applications of that horsepower are very different. So it's a much more exciting number than it sounds. Another feature of this motor, which I suppose makes this truck really exciting, is the number associated with the torque rating. This thing has 465 foot-pounds of torque, and that's almost immediately. So when this thing's at around 200 or 300 RPM, it's putting out almost peak torque, unlike a gasoline motor where you need to be around 2,000, 2,500, 5,000 RPM. It really depends on the engine, but much higher RPMs. And then we put in rack and pinion steering, so that's an upgrade as well. This is actually a Camaro front end. All right, I guess we could lower the car. So this is I guess this is our centerpiece. I thought this looked pretty cool, so I tucked it right up there. And that's the DMOC, which is basically the computer and controller for the systems. You've got the high voltage wires coming in and out, and then your 3-phase AC motor. So this controls basically speeds and power selectors, right? Reverse, forward, neutral, etc. We have a continuous duty solenoid, which hooks up to our brakes in the dash. We put some aftermarket brakes in. We put this switch in there so we can hold the brake pressure on the calipers and use that as a brake block. So when you're parking the car, that's a safety feature. You don't have to just rely on the emergency brake system. This is the pack, so we have 2 packs. These are only 6 cells, but we have 18 in the rear. Okay, so we have 96 cells in total, and then we build packs out of the cells. We need to link them all together with these battery management boards, and what these do is they basically monitor charging and voltages, so you don't want to overcharge your batteries because they explode. So you need to basically modulate which cells are getting how much power. Each cell is about 3.3 volts. And at 160 amp hours, right? So when you summate the cells in series, you summate the voltage and you bump your voltage up by 3.3 volts per cell. So you end up with about 330 volts for 96 cells. We have an inertia switch, and what this does is that in the event of a crash or bump, it's basically a ball bearing and a spring, and what it does is it disrupts a circuit, a 12 volt circuit, which then breaks a contactor and disrupts the high voltage circuit. And that's a safety feature because you don't want your car quote unquote hot or energized if you're in an accident, right? So that's something we had to figure out, and actually Trevor helped us with that immensely. Trevor Stoker is probably the unsung hero in all of this. He played an extremely important role in the building of this truck.
This is one of the controllers here for the vehicle. This is also supplied by Azure Dynamics. There's several settings here. You've got reverse, you've got your neutral position, which you must start it in, and then you've got different forward drive positions. But most likely, knowing that this is a steam whistle truck, it's going to be on power, which gives you full power so you can do all the burnouts you need to do. One other feature that the controller has here, and that's the regenerative braking setting. So you can turn down the regen so you won't lock up your wheels, and that's a safety feature that you need to have in an electric vehicle.
What about performance? I guess everybody's going to want to know how fast this thing is. Well, it's fast off the line up until about 60 or 80 kilometers an hour. I don't think there's much out there that'll touch it, which is pretty astounding considering its weight. And when I say much out there that'll touch it, I mean street cars.